The Iranian parliament approved a bill to suspend cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs denounced that people in the Gaza Strip are being killed while trying to get food. The Panamanian government extended the state of siege in the province of Bocas del Toro after the recurring protests against Law 462 of the Social Security Fund. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. The Parliament of Iran approved on Wednesday a bill to suspend cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency. A member of the presidency of the Iranian parliament, Ali Salimi, announced the decision and pointed out that it will be sent to the Supreme National Security Council for its approval. He rejected that the organization did not condemn the attacks against the nuclear facilities of the Persian country and emphasized that this measure seeks to prohibit the entry of inspectors of the agency to the country and to sanction those who allow their entry. He also emphasized the intention to continue working on nuclear energy for peaceful purposes, in spite of the threats and recent attacks by Israel and the United States. An early U.S. intelligence assessment indicated that U.S. military strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities failed to destroy the core components of Tehran's atomic program. The report indicated that the nuclear facilities at Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan did not suffer as much damage as the White House expected, being limited mainly to surface structures, including the site's electrical infrastructure. The document exposed that much of Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium was moved to secret nuclear facilities prior to the United States attacks. The report shows that the preliminary findings contradict President Donald Trump's initial statements that the facilities were completely destroyed. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs denounced that people in the Gaza Strip are being killed while trying to get food. The director of OSHA, Jonathan Whittle, pointed out that trying to survive in Gaza becomes a death sentence. In a briefing, Whittle warned that Israel is carrying out massacre and is using hunger as a weapon. The organization denounced that Israel's militarized humanitarian assistance mechanisms contradicts international norms.
Israel's militarized humanitarian assistance mechanism is in contradiction with international standards on aid distribution. It endangers civilians and contributes to the catastrophic humanitarian situation in Gaza. The weaponization of food for civilians, in addition to restricting or preventing their access to life-sustaining services, constitutes a war crime and under certain circumstances may constitute elements of other crimes under international law.
The representative of the UN Humanitarian Rights Affairs Office urged an end to the attack on people seeking to obtain food and to allow humanitarian aid to enter the Gaza Strip.
The Israeli military must stop shooting at people trying to get food. Israel must also allow the entry of food and other humanitarian assistance needed to sustain the lives of Palestinians in Gaza in accordance with international law and humanitarian principles.
After 627 days, the Israeli regime occupation forces continue their genocide in the Gaza Strip with aerial and artillery bombardments. With political and military support from the United States and amid international silence and an unprecedented failure of the international community, Zionist troops advanced their plans of ethnic cleansing by killing, starving, and displacing people. After 20 months of siege and clear violations of the Palestinian people's human rights, Israel has left more than 187,000 people dead or wounded and more than 11,000 missing, and hundreds of thousands more facing famine and forced displacement. The most recent attacks by Tel Aviv on the Gaza population left a 13-year-old boy among the victims. The Chinese Prime Minister Li Qiang delivered a speech at the World Economic Forum known as the Summer Davos held in China, where he called for collaboration between countries in the field of trade and investment. Li asserted that globalization cannot be reversed, urging nations not to turn trade into a political or security issue. His words highlight a pragmatic approach that aligns with the need for a more equitable world order where emerging powers such as China seek to redefine the norms and rules governing international trade. Li also showed an optimistic outlook on the Chinese economy, announcing that measures will be implemented to turn China into a large-scale consumer power.
Currently, the international economic and trade landscape is undergoing profound changes. Influenced by geopolitics and technological innovation, economic structure, and various other factors, the global economic landscape is undergoing significant transformation and adjustment. The global economy is deeply integrated, and no country can grow or prosper alone, isolated from the world. Cooperation is the inevitable choice for development.
We have a short break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. And I'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. More than 80,000 people were forced to flee their homes due to severe flooding in the southwestern Chinese province of Guizhou. State news agency Xinhua reported that rescue teams were dispatched to the two affected counties. This week, authorities issued the second level of alert in the capital, Beijing, which experienced one of the hottest days so far this year. According to Xinhua agency, some 80,900 people had left their homes by Tuesday afternoon, while tens of thousands of people were evacuated last week in central China's Hunan province due to heavy rains. And in South Africa, large floods were recorded, raising the number of dead to more than 100 people, including 37 children. The local government indicated that 94 bodies have been identified and handed over to their families. Meanwhile, the process to identify the remaining bodies continue. Authorities also assured that search operations will be extended and the death toll is expected to rise due to reports of missing persons. And at least 10 people were killed, 8 injured, and at least 15 missing in a landslide in the Colombian municipality of Bello, adjacent to Medellin. The authorities ordered the evacuation of a dozen houses that were at high risk of deterioration due to the material that fell on them, and those affected are already being moved to temporary shelters. After announcing the recovery of 10 bodies buried, the governor of the Department of Antioquia, Andrés Julián Rendón, asked to evacuate the area in view of the warnings of new landslides. According to the authorities, the landslide was caused by heavy rains that overflowed a nearby creek. And the mayor of Bello, Lorena González Ospina, said that the death toll rose to 9. Another 15 people are missing and 5 were injured and were taken to medical centers, while the mayor's office of Medellin reported no casualties and said it had sent rescue workers to support the neighboring municipality. The director of the Administrative Department of Disaster Risk Management, Carlos Quintero, explained that a landslide affected a stream that dammed up, causing a torrential flood. And in the United States, Queens Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani is poised to become the Democratic standard-bearer for New York City mayor following the preliminary results after Tuesday's Democratic primary and the concession of his opponent, Andrew Cuomo.
We made history. In the words of Nelson Mandela, it always seems impossible until it is done. We have done it. I will be your Democratic nominee for the mayor of New York tonight.
In the Netherlands, NATO signed to a proposed increase in defense spending. The higher defense spending goal of 5% of GDP comes as a response to a demand by U.S. President Donald Trump and European fears that Russia poses a growing threat to their security. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte stated member countries would reach an unanimous decision. However, some nations warned they will not meet this target, as Rutte himself acknowledged that it was not easy for some European countries and Canada to find the extra money. The new spending target to be achieved over the next 10 years is a jump worth hundreds of billions of dollars a year from the current goal of 2% of GDP. For its part, Russia has accused NATO of being on a path of militarization and warned of the villainization of the country in order to justify its defense spending increase. And U.S. President Donald Trump criticized the Spanish government Tuesday for refusing to increase its defense budget to 5% a day before of the NATO summit. The U.S. President declared that the European nation was a problem following Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez's decision not to participate in NATO's increased defense spending. On the other hand, Sánchez assured that 2.1% would be enough, an opinion that caused distress among the bloc's member nations. For his part, Trump said Spain's position was not fair for the rest of the NATO members, including the United States. According to the head of the Spanish government, a 5% spending would be irrational, counterproductive, and incompatible with his country's welfare state.
We can be slightly optimistic, is that European and Canadian partners, they are now.
And the government of Bolivia declared a national health emergency on Tuesday due to a measles epidemic after more than 25 years without reported cases of the disease. President Luis Arce highlighted that after an urgent meeting with the National Strategic Council for Health Emergencies, they took the measure due to the 60 cases reported. The health authorities informed the Department of Santa Cruz is where most of the cases are reported and that 2 other patients are still under observation. For its part, the Department of Health Service of Potosí made a proposal to the Department of Education to start online classes to curb the proliferation of measles, since countries such as Peru, Brazil, and Argentina have registered deaths linked to this disease. We have our second and final break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. A final break, don't go away. Welcome back. The Panamanian government extended the state of siege for 5 more days in the province of Bocas del Toro after protests against Law 462 of the Social Security Fund. The Cabinet Council approved the extension of said measure, which establishes the restriction of constitutional guarantees, alleging that it seeks to re-establish order in view of the disturbances and vandalism registered in the province. Among the restrictions still in place in the area is the suspension of internet and mobile telephone services. Authorities indicated that 267 people were arrested in the province in the midst of the protest. The Argentine Nation Bank announced the closure of 60 branches throughout the country as part of the adjustment policies of the government of Javier Milei. The measure is part of a plan to reduce operating costs, which is already causing concern about the possible massive layoffs. This bank reduced its staff by 7%, which represented the dismissal of around 1,000 employees. Since then, cutbacks have accelerated, especially in municipalities with tax rates considered high by the entity. In February 2024, President Javier Milei signed a decree transforming the National Bank into a corporation, leaving behind its status as a state-owned company. In Argentina, as well as every Wednesday, retirees will hold their March of Dignity in the vicinity of the National Congress to demand an increase in pensions. This day of protest in labor claims it's the beginning of a plan of struggle that will continue to escalate, predicted the General Secretary of the State Workers Association, Rodolfo Aguiar. On the other hand, university professors and non-teaching workers plus students are carrying out a 48-hour strike on Wednesday and Thursday in view of the lack of response from the national government to the budgetary and salary demands. This initiative seeks the support of the National Congress in order to guarantee the protection and support the finances of the National University. In Chile, the 12th edition of biennial SACO, which will be held in the region of Antofagasta until September 14th, began. Under the title Dark Ecosystems, more than 40 international artists from Mongolia, Brazil, New Zealand, Iceland, Germany, Argentina, and Ecuador take part in this edition, presenting a diversity of particular works that dialogue with the territory through science, ecology, and memory. Several places in Antofagasta host this event, such as the historic pier, the X-Mill, and the desert, where they also seek to create a link between creation and the call for awareness regarding climate change. And Cuba fine-tunes details for the 44th edition of the Caribbean Festival to be held from July 3rd to the 9th. The city of Santiago de Cuba will once again host this traditional celebration, also known as Fiesta del Fuego, which will bring together artists, intellectuals, and communities from all over the region to commemorate the rich cultural heritage of the country and other Caribbean nations. Through musical manifestations, dances, colors, popular activities, and social dialogues, the attendees will enjoy a great event that will also have Curaçao as guest of honor. So more than 150 representatives from Curaçao will be present at the event, which will strengthen the ties of friendship and cultural cooperation between both nations.
A las 4 décadas de la apertura de la Casa del Caribe, los 30 años del estudio teatral Macuba.
And international organizations such as UNESCO have spoken out in favor of using technological tools to promote inclusive education and improve the quality of learning. In Cuba, a particular initiative makes use of these tools to bring literature closer to teenagers, children, and young people. Correspondent Eric Mendez with the details.
Vivimos en los tiempos de las multipantallas y
We live in times of multi-screens and instantaneousness. From Cuba, a private company is betting on information and communication technologies to bring young people closer to literature.
Tenemos gratísimas experiencias trabajando para y con los
We have very pleasant experiences working for and with children in the development of digital products as an alternative to empower them, to provide them with autonomy in learning, taking into account that multiple intelligence, the forms of autonomous independent learning are increasing, followed, and that linked to the high use of technologies favors to development of a set of solutions that promote the use of information and communication technologies for healthy uses, for recreation, but also for the development of knowledge.
los cuentos de siempre, poesía para niñas y niños.
Traditional stories, children's poetry, and literary classics leave the paper and arrive in new formats designed for new audiences.
Para mí ha sido un reto doble.
For me, it has been a double challenge. First, because you have to put your heart into it, put the pump, and take it to the children. And second, because I feel part of the formation of a generation that will not stay in the simple concept of the story that they were told when they were babies, but they will continue to learn even as teenagers, listening to stories, narratives, dramas, romance, but in another format.
En diferentes espacios como la Feria Internacional.
These proposals have been presented in different spaces, such as Havana International Book Fair. The value of these productions lies not only in the rescue of the stories and their adaptation to audiovisual format, but also in the fact that these audiobooks make literature more accessible.
El escuchar los audiolibros o ver la textura.
Listening to audiobooks or seeing the text in a different way with a person narrating the text who is accessing it not only for people with special needs, but also for people who do not have much time, are also part of that public, of that accessibility that, in some way, is solved by these complementary formats to the physical book that we produce here in the company.
Acercar las historias de siempre a las generaciones.
Bringing the stories of all times to present and future generations, and doing so with new tools associated with technology, opens another door to the imaginary universes treasured in centuries and centuries of literature.
Eric Méndez, Telesur, La Habana.
Ladies, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.